Again, welcome to the open house and kind of night to learn about the Center for Economicology. My name is Ryan Huppert. I'm the principal. You'll probably see in one of your tiles there, we've got Mr. Michael Boosamra. He's one of the kind of founding teachers of the Center for Economicology. So thanks for saying hello there, Mr. Boosamra, and we'll learn all about him as we go through the presentation. And then we also have Mr. Jesse Antema, and he is another administrator here on the campus with Center for Economicology and City. And so thanks for being here tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to go through this presentation because I think it's going to have information that you guys are looking for. We've got pictures, videos, testimonials. So you kind of get that kind of that first person view of what Center for Economicology is. And then at the end, we'll have time for questions and answers. And hopefully you guys will walk away knowing a whole lot more about CFE, as we call it for short, than you did before you got here. So where is Center for Economicology? So Center for Economicology is located and shares a campus with City High Middle School, which is on 1720 Plainfield. And there are some of the kind of key people that you'll deal with here at CFE. And you get a nice shot of the campus as well. And follow the orange arrow. There we are in the back. It's actually nice because it's tucked way off the street and it sits back on a nice grassy hill. We've got a bit of an oak savanna and park area that surrounds the building itself. So who are we? Who is actually at CFE? So each year we have always 2 classes, and so it's a nice small school feel. We like to say it kind of has a family feel as we get into the school year and we really get to know each other well. It's only 6th graders, so the 2 classes of approximately 30-some students in each class, and then Mr. Boosamra, who you met, and then Mrs. Phillips, who you'll learn and see in the presentation here in a little bit, plus a support staff member that's dedicated a large part of their day to just working with CFE students and helping support the journey back in CFE. And so also, as you can see, our demographics we've got a really nice diverse mix of students that make us up. So we have kids that come from all over the city and even beyond the city of Grand Rapids, but kids from the south side, the north side, the west side, the suburbs, from the neighborhood, etc. It's a really great mix of students that makes up our school. And yes, we like to say it, but it's true. We have the best staff. So Mrs. Phillips, as you can see on the left, Mr. B, or Mr. Boosamra, short, we call Mr. B, a little easier. And then Mr. Brace, who is just the most friendly and dedicated and positively minded guy. And so that makes up kind of the core staff that you'll see there each day. All right, so now we're going to take a moment and hear Mr. Boosamra kind of talking a little bit about the campus and the snow. And yeah, we get outside when it's snowy. We love to go outside in all seasons. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video and you can hear from Mr. Boosamra himself here.
Hey everybody. Welcome to the campus out here at the Center for Economicology. There is the 6th grade building, that big rectangle. And I'm standing out back. I'm part of the campus here. Students are outside today, as usual, doing some snow depth measurements out on campus. We've got quite a few acres back here to roam, and the students get comfortable with getting around back here. We've built a lot of trust with the kids, establishing the boundaries so they can get outside a lot and use this as their living, learning laboratory for a lot of different science activities. Really, all of the main subject areas are taught out here throughout the year with different activities and projects. Let's do a 360. There is City High main building in the background. You can see some of our kids down there near the Gaga Ball Court doing their snow depth measurements. Here's our Oak Grove here. Spend a lot of time there gathering at the Rock for meetings. Softball field in the distance, and I'll keep going around. Recess time, kids use the basketball courts, tennis courts for soccer, basketball, tennis. And then of course, Sweet Street Park is our playground. Probably see some kids up there doing their snow depth measurements around there right now. We're gonna collect some data today and get it back into the classroom. And we will use this data throughout the winter to do things like melt rate, climate change studies, looking at snow depth totals from previous years where CFE students have been out here. So that's fun. So doing some real scientific data for students to actually apply to some different real world issues. And there you go, a full 360, back to where we started.
All right, so cool to see the kind of learning happening right from the perspective of the top of the hill and the back of our campus. So just a little bit about safety. Obviously, that's a big topic on everyone's mind right now, given the pandemic and such. And so what was really nice about CFE is a very welcoming and safe space. We have our own separate building, as you saw in the very back of the campus, where it's just sixth graders. And so that's I guess a nice feature about CFE is having a little bit of that separate space for the sixth graders to just be sixth graders, and we don't have to mix much with any of the other students on the bigger campus of City High Middle, except for when maybe they might be heading down to use the gym or the cafeteria, that sort of thing. But they're really in the back in their own space where it's nice and safe. We've also got a new feature that for all of students who ride the yellow bus with Dean Transportation is a Z-Pass. And so the way that works is students get a card where they can actually swipe on when they get on the bus. So there's a little meter there, and they swipe off when they get off the bus. And it logs when students get on the bus, get off the bus, so parents can make sure to know what buses they were on if ever they needed to do any contact tracing. And then even not related to the pandemic and just helpful is the fact that there is an app that parents can log into. Here comes the bus, and they can actually see where their student is at moving through the town on the bus in real time. So that's a new feature and something that we're happy to be trying out this year. We do have processes in place for pickup and for signing out students. And so we work with both the main office up front at City and the secretaries there. We have swipe in, key card access, buzzers and cameras for kids and families to be able to check in and out as needed and make sure things are safe and on the up and up with that. We also have a lot of training that we do around code red procedures and other things to make sure that we're following the best practices with regard to school safety in general. And then we also have access to public safety officers that are part of our whole campus and that are dedicated just for City and CFE. And so we have two great security officers who are on our campus all day, every day, always there for us. So that's a great thing. Parent engagement. So we love to get parents engaged. As I talked about before, it's kind of a family feel, and that only happens when we get parents who are plugging in and getting active with us in certain activities. And that comes in play for day-to-day things, helping with our classroom library, helping with some of the grounds and projects there, helping chaperone on trips, helping chaperone at the camp trips, fundraising, etc. So we're going to hear from a couple, a family here that's one of our former parents and students who are now at City, and they still get involved and still engage and still volunteer with CFE. So let's hear from the Bradleys.
Hi, I'm Tara, and this is Declan. We're here to talk about the Center for Economicology, which is a mouthful, and why it gets abbreviated to CFE. It's one of GRPS's theme schools. One of the first things that I found appealing was hearing that the CFE teachers find it very important to let the kids get outside as much as possible, and that means at least once a day to have recess. And I was discovering that's not the case in other middle school schedules. The lovely tree-filled hill that leads up to Sweet Street Park behind the city building where the CFE building is located is a lovely place to spend your recesses.
Yeah, we're outside all the time for experiments and studies with little microscopes where you can put in different soil samples and such, and for the leaf project, which you have to collect a lot of different leaves, but it's really fun finding all those different trees and going to different places, searching for stuff like that. Is only a few minutes walk from the school, so we went on several field trips there, and just general visits. And we got to release salmon there after we had them in a tank in the school, and we fed them after they hatched until they grew to size, and then we took them down the river and released them. GVSU research boat, we got to go out and take like water samples and run tests and all that. CFE and city are very closely related. It's still sort of oasis, back behind the school. It's a different building. You don't spend most of the day there, but our lunchroom is in city, as is the gymnasium and art and band and orchestra and all that. And the teachers for those classes are the same too. So when I went into 7th grade, obviously things were different, but I already knew like my art teacher, my band teacher, my gym teacher. You already knew your way around the school where everything was, and it was pretty easy.
All right. So what is kind of notable about CFE? One of the things is our academic achievement. So, getting into the Center for Economicology is the first step, right? So for those of you who are applying, you need to take the MAP test. And so with the MAP test, the goal is to be considered for selection. You have to be above the 50th percent nationally for reading and for math. And then from there, we're aiming for the top. And so once you get in, you get to be part of really a top performing school. We have made the A grade according to Mackinac Center in their performance report card, which is a great achievement, something we hit near the top each year. We're also a green school, so because of our practices around sustainability, and we make the emerald level each year, which is the highest of the Michigan Green School categories. And I think that's something to note is that, as Ms. Kaylee mentioned earlier, economicology is a mouthful, but it's really a combination of two words: economics, which is kind of like the business or the way the world works, and ecology, which is the study of relationships between humans and the natural environment. And so really, economicology is pretty synonymous with the word sustainability. In other words, we're all about going green. So being a green school is something that we do, and we want to make sure that students are bringing home some of those strategies to be good stewards of the earth and to help make sure that their families are following that same lead. So that's our goal. And then as you can see in the other bullets, we have kids winning contests each year in some of the annual contests, and traditionally annually we have really high performing students that are doing great things, from essay contests to spelling bees, etc., and continue to get high marks. We also have some amazing partnerships. So we couldn't do what we do at Center for Economicology without the work and the support of the Wegge Foundation. And so there are kind of our inspiration, and Peter Wegge, who was from the founding family of Steelcase, actually coined the term economicology, and he was a big steward of the environment. So they support our school and help us to do some of the special things we do. We're continuing to be partners with Groundswell, which is around place-based education, the Green Network, the North End Wellness Coalition, which is kind of neighborhood located, and the West Michigan Environmental Action Council. And these 3 trips that you see here, these are ones that happen each year, but there's a whole host of more of them, and we'll talk a little bit about those later. But going out on a vessel on Lake Michigan, going to Camp Minnewanka, staying in cabins, staying in tents, learning how to be good campers, connecting with the dunes and the forests and the Lake Michigan out there is a huge part of our experience each year. And then keeping it local and going right down the hill and hiking over to Riverside Park and doing field studies there each season, and really multiple times throughout the month as the school year progresses. So there I mentioned we got more trips. We got trips galore. Honestly, I think that CFE has more field trips than any other school in the city. And I don't say that lightly because I've worked at a lot of other schools and some others with environmental education focuses, and CFE really takes the cake when it comes to field trips. We go over to Huff Park to do a stream study there, which is nearby. The Fulton Street Farmers Market to learn about the importance of food production and the being a locavore and getting your food source locally and how to do that. Howard Christensen Nature Center. We'll go over to Griff's Ice House and do some PE and ice skating there. We have an annual day where CFE and former CFE students and kids at City, we go over to Cannonsburg and bring, I think last year we had about 150 students out there just to ski for the day and recreate and get our outdoor time out there. And for those who never skied before, we teach you, lessons included, and you walk away saying, hey, I know how to ski. We go to wind farms and learn about wind turbines and wind technology and the amazing kind of potentials with renewables in the Great Lakes. Millennium Park, where we do fishing studies, and we collect data, as Mr. B had said earlier, and we compare it to previous years to learn about the health of the fisheries. And we even go to Wolf Lake Fish Hatchery, and that's where we pick up those salmon eggs and then bring them back, and we have a huge tank in the classroom where students actually then raise those salmon and then get to release them in the spring. So we also want to introduce you to Miss Phillips. So Mrs. Phillips is the other teacher. Mr. B teaches science and social studies / geography, and then Mrs. Phillips does the reading and the math. And then there's other activities and lessons that come throughout the day, but those are kind of the two main categories. And so students will spend basically half a day with each teacher in those different subjects. And so let's hear from Mrs. Phillips. And then before I get too far along here, let me just make sure, anybody on board there, can you guys see Mrs. Phillips on the screen here? I just want to make sure it's coming through.
We're still seeing your slide.
Okay, let me switch it over. This one comes up in a new video here. One moment. How about now?
Yep, looks good.
All right, well, that's Mrs. Phillips. Here we go.
Hi everyone, thank you for your interest in the Center for Economicology. I am Mrs. Phillips, and I have been the math and English language arts teacher at CFE for 6 years. I have been asked to share what I love about our school, and I truly love everything. My favorite part is how I get to help students learn to take care of the world by understanding where they live and taking action in their own backyards and communities. Well, how do we do that? Collaboration, communication, and field trips. Let me show you.
All right. All right, let me get back to the PowerPoint there and we'll keep continuing on here. Okay, so that's Mrs. Phillips, and as I said before, she makes up kind of the other half of the awesome duo that is Mr. B and Mrs. Phillips back there. And next video here, I want to show you, it actually kind of highlights one of the projects that students get to take part in and help with, and that is our Salmon in the Classroom. And it looks like I'm going to have to switch over again here real quick. Excuse me. All right, here we go.
Hey, CFE science students, hanging out here with our new salmon. So excited today that the hatch has started. What a surprise. Let's take a closer look. Let's get into the red nest. Look at that movement in there. The eyed eggs are starting to hatch out. These baby salmon are wiggling those tails, breaking out of those eggs even as we speak. I'd say about half of them have broken free from the egg and are now entering the third stage of their life, the alevin. We also call them sac fry. It's kind of a funny name. That's because they carry their own lunch sack now. And they'll carry that big orange sack of food for about a month, sometimes a little more. And they'll use up all the nutrients in that big orange sack. That way they can just hide in the gravel. They don't have to go out and look for food. That'd be a big risk for them to get eaten by predators. So that food sack is actually a survival characteristic for them. So they can just lay low. They don't have to go out and search for food yet. If you look closely, you can see some that have come all the way out and are officially now alevin.
Don't want to totally spoil the salmon presentation because you guys are hopefully going to be here and seeing that yourselves. But they've actually, most of them are now out of their out of the sack and the egg, as Mr. Bede said, and they're swimming around. I think they're actually par now, so they have the little stripes. And then later this spring, we're going to release them into the Grand River. We've got one last video that I'm going to share with you guys here in just a second, and that is of our leaf project. So each fall, students have to complete a leaf collection project. And so in that way, you guys get to go throughout our school campus, through your own neighborhoods, through the community, and learn all about ways that you're going to classify trees, what makes up the different classification systems and the taxonomy of tree identification. And then you get to incorporate some art into the project, collecting them and presenting them in these awesome leaf project binders. So let's check that out. All right, here we go.
Too small. This is a shrub. We don't want to collect anything that's this small. I'm looking down here. These plants are way too small. We can't collect any of these for our tree collection. We need to move on to something bigger. Let's go. Here we go. This meets the requirement. We talked about at least 15 feet tall with a trunk that's at least as big around as your leg. So this one should be fun. So I'm going to stand back, start to look at the characteristics of the tree as I collect the leaves. I've got my research page ready to record. Conifer or broadleaf? Broadleaf. Compound or simple? Simple. Alternate or opposite? Opposite. Pinnate or palmate? Pinnate. Entire or toothed? Entire. Lobed or unlobed? It is unlobed. So now I'm ready to collect a few to bring in to my press. Remember, get 2 or 3, and if they're small, maybe even 4 or 5, so you can fill up the page for your final project when you glue these down. Remember, try not to break branches. We're doing this in a sustainable way to do the least amount of damage to the tree.
Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and get us back to the PowerPoint and share a few more pieces of information with you guys before we open it up for questions and answers.
Who was that? Who was that famous actor in that video?
Yeah,
What?
we have that very famous man with us. Actually, Mr. B's here. He's the wizard behind these projects because we are a project-based school. And so I'm going to turn it over to Q&A, and you guys can meet Mr. B and hear about his perspective with these projects. So Salmon in the Classroom, the Soils of Riverside Park, Invader Species presentation. We learn all about the invasive species that are trying to take over our state, and the geography and the geology of our Earth through some of the most awesome 3D modeling projects that students make each year. A few of the other projects, Mr. B, you want to speak to some of these and give people your perspective on these cool projects?
I'd be happy to. Thanks, Mr. Hubbard. Yeah, so the folks you see right there were some of our winners on the Invader Species project, and they put together trifold boards. That's a fun night because that's actually a potluck night where we invite all of our families up to the City High cafeteria. We all have a huge meal together, and then we have the science room all set up, and all the trifold boards are set up. And the parents go through and take a tour, and they get to check out all the research. And the parents actually vote that night for some of their favorite projects. And so we had just announced our winners there for their invader species work that they had done. So that's what's going on in the picture. We've got some nice vegetable gardens out here that we maintain in the spring. Last year we grew radishes. That was cool. Everybody got to try their own radishes last spring. Behind me, you see some of the wind turbines that the kids have made. So that's part of our wind energy study. Our Latin American research project is a lot of fun. That's part of our geography unit. We incorporate a little Spanish into that one. Of course, the LEAF project, we talked about that one. That one's the one we kick off the year with. Right when you start in as a sixth grader, we get right down to it in the fall. As the leaves are changing color, it's a lot of fun to get some of those nice colorful leaves before they fall. Home energy survey, that's part of our study on renewable and non-renewable energy. You actually get to take a look at what's going on in your own home. So how efficient are things around the house, and what types of things can you possibly make different? What types of changes can you make around your own house to make a difference? The rock collections are a lot of fun too. Once the snow melts, if it ever melts this year, right? We'll get out there and start digging around for rocks and do some identification. Students will have an opportunity to put together their very own rock collection to share.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. B.
Yeah.
So before we leave, want to make sure you guys know we have social media there. You can follow us in those sites if you choose to do so. And then, you know, ultimately, I want to make sure everybody knows that all the pictures you're seeing in here, you know, those are pictures we've collected from our families and taken along the way from our very own trips. And you see kids adventuring all over the state of Michigan, doing cool things. And we hope you guys might want to be a part of that. So without further ado, we'd love to hear from you guys. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so I can get a better look at who's in the audience. And if people have questions, love to give you the opportunity to unmute your microphones and fire them away at Mr. B and myself or Mr. Antema, and we'll share what we know with you.
Have you been able to do, or will you be able to do any of those fantastic field trips this year, considering the pandemic situation?
Yeah, that's the big, the $64 million question, as it were, right? And so we have right now a limited capacity to go around and do those things. So we're focused on exploring our campus and really making the most of that. Our goal is that as we continually and gradually kind of are able to open things up, that we'll be able to venture further and further, but we're just basically you know, taking that one step at a time and making sure things are as safe as possible, and thankful that we've got a big campus to explore and get outside on in the meantime.
Sure, thank you.
Other questions? You can also pose them in the chat if you're feeling shy and don't want to unmute your microphone or turn on your video. That's fine anyway. You guys want to share out, it's just fine with us.
Well, while we're waiting for some questions, I can tell you some of the things we do around here right on campus. So we're changing things around a little bit, and we're all adjusting right to the new guidelines. So right here on campus, we can do a lot with our oak tree grove. We do a lot of tree measurements out there. We incorporate that into our math class with diameter and radius and circumference. We do our soil studies right here on campus. We talk about soil nutrients, the main different nutrients that soils need. We talk about soil contamination right here on campus. So we're going outside to collect our own soil samples and bringing those right in. So we can do that here. We also do, our gardens are right on campus. So we're doing our organic gardening right here. We don't have to go far for that at all. There's a greenhouse here as well. Students can be a part of that. I think that's ran as a club now over there at the greenhouse. So that's right here on campus as well. Our salmon are here too. So our big salmon study takes place right here. They're just right outside of the classroom. So we've learned to adapt a lot and do things right here on our own living, campus. And we really do consider this campus part of the classroom. And it's just an extension of what we do in the room. So we're spoiled because we can literally walk out the door anytime we want to and have access to that outdoor world.
Thanks, Mr. B.
Yeah.
Any other questions that people may have thought of while we were giving you guys some wait time?
I was wondering, how much homework can a student expect to do every day at the CFE?
Mr. B, I'll let you speak to it because you're the one giving it out and grading all the papers.
Yeah.
But I'll just say it's a little more than maybe your average sixth grade because we do have a pretty rigorous program, but we try to keep it balanced. So Mr. B, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. So Mrs. Phillips and I have we have a deal. We have a pact on homework, and that is on like the heaviest night you would ever get would be 1 hour from each of us. So that would be max. And that's not going to be like every night or anything, but the most you would ever see could be, sitting down to do my subjects, geography and science, for an hour. And then for her subjects, math and language arts, max time would be an hour. So that would be tops. And by no means is that average or anything, but that's the ceiling right there. We don't go beyond that at all. Something we always have to keep in mind too is what might take one student an hour. When we say at top level, another student could easily have that done in half of that time. We know that everybody works at a different rate. So that's our ceiling.
Yeah, that I think another good way to put it is if you're managing your workload well and not waiting till the night before to do some of the bigger things, chances are you're spreading it out, and so that it's a pretty manageable level. But that's part of what we're learning is how to organize our time and not kind of procrastinate and wait till the end where we might have a ton of homework one night. If we balance it out, it's very doable. Somebody had asked in the chat, so if you don't have your chat open, I'll just make sure people are keyed in on that. What electives are offered? So we have every student has PE, art, and then also band or orchestra. And so students learn to play one of those two instruments, have band, have PE every week throughout the school year. And those occur with the resources that we have at City. So access to the big gym, the orchestra room, the band room, and those specials teachers here. So we have access to those. It's not electives per se as a traditional 7th and 8th grade where you might be choosing different things, but students do get to choose between the band and the orchestra when they want to learn to play an instrument. Somebody also asked about sports. Yeah, I see you there, Oliver. what is the situation with sports? Yeah, it's been a really kind of a moving target. So we work with the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Also, they kind of set the stage for middle school sports. And currently they've been allowing more and more high school sports to happen. But on a widespread scale, they haven't given us the full green light for middle school sports. But again, that's right now. I'm hopeful by this time in the fall, we'll be moving incrementally into a much safer space as we work through the pandemic. And I'm hoping that we'll have the access we normally do, which is to really the full range of middle school sports. So soccer, basketball, boys and girls teams. Sometimes we also partner with cities middle school, depending on if there's not quite enough numbers to field a team, then we'll do some partnering to make sure that they have access to that. But really it's the full range of all the middle school sports that are offered throughout Grand Rapids Public Schools. There's a swim team as well, students can participate in, volleyball, so there's a wide range there. Other questions you guys might have for us? Well, as we wrap up, one thing I'll just share is, now's the time to apply. You can always, make your decision later, but right now that round one of our theme school applications are open. And it's also the time, if you don't have the MAP test at the school where you're currently at, you'll need that. And so we do offer the ability for families to come in and take the MAP test, but you have to start the application process in order to do that. And so you're always welcome to email me, any of the teachers, and our information is in the PowerPoint. It's on our website if you have questions about any of those things. But we encourage you guys to learn more about it, check in with us, ask those questions. I think we're really confident in saying that CFE is something that Mr. B and myself and Ms. Phillips, the staff, have really been able to build from the ground up. Mr. Boosamra is really the founding teacher of the Center for Economicology and has been here over a decade, 13 years, I think he said. It's hard to believe because it's gone so fast because we're having fun. Mr. B, Mr. Anton, and myself, we're really passionate about the outdoors. We're really passionate about the environment, and that translates into what we do. Nobody here is trying to convince you of something that we're not excited about. We love this stuff. We love it. We love going to camp. We love going to Lake Michigan. We love learning about salmon. We love fishing for them. We love raising them. We like getting kids outside. And we think that passion translates into a great experience for you guys. So we hope you come join the CFE family. And again, don't hesitate to reach out and ask us any more questions you guys have. We're happy to share about it.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. We did think of one more question because it would be our first year with kids at different schools. So
Sure.
The question is, what are the start and end hours of the day?
Yeah, I guess we got into all the good stuff and didn't really focus in on those simple nuts and bolts.
It's a small one, but
yeah, so it's 8 to 2:41. So 8 a.m. to 2:41. Students get about 20 to 30 minutes of lunch, 20 to 30 minutes of recess in the middle of the day, free breakfast, free lunch, and yeah, 8 to 2:41 is our schedule.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Any other thoughts or questions in conclusion as we close it out?
Feel free to contact me directly, you guys, anytime. My phone number is on the website. It's probably on the presentation. You can look me up on City High, Middle, or Center for Economicology website. Call my classroom anytime. Leave me a message, shoot me an email. I love to talk about this stuff with you guys.
Awesome. So we'll be posting this presentation, a recording of it, and the PowerPoint itself on our website and social media here in the next couple days this week as we get it downloaded and posted there for you guys. So don't hesitate to come and check us out a little bit more. Reach out anytime. We love sharing about it and are glad you guys were here to learn about it. Thank you all.
Again, take care.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.